Hello, 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 and welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, and this is Streaming Idiots. If you've always wanted to be a live streamer and have been afraid that you might make a mistake in doing it, you have come to the right place because we make mistakes like nobody else's business. I mean, the whole concept behind this show is I want to show you all the mistakes real in live real time, so that you don't feel so bad when you make one, and so that you know how you get out of it once you made it. Used to be, a long time ago, I was the one man, one PC, one awesome broadcast guy. Never really got to the awesome broadcast, but really mastered the art of doing live streaming on one PC. Now I cheat just a little bit now. I'm using a second PC. You can see the laptop over my shoulder here, and the laptop's actually doing the streaming and the recording. But I've got one PC in front of me with two monitors that I'm doing all the live production on, and it's a ton of fun. We need to do a studio tour sometime. Let me make a note of that. Studio tour. Okay, great. I am pumped because all sorts of great things are happening in the world of live streaming. Number one, because I've got one of the coolest guests you could ever hope for. I've got Seth Haberman from the Cloud Media Group. Seth he's a modern day Renaissance man, is what he really is. In his spare time, he's a tester for vMix. In his spare time, he writes apps for vMix, like the virtual control surface for vMix that allows you to control all the vMix functions from an iPad. I mean, it's amazingly cool. Plus, he's a pastor at his church, which is his full-time gig. And we're going to bring him on in just a minute, actually from the sanctuary of his church. So you might hear just a tad of room noise in the background. But before we do, I need to give a couple shout outs. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Byron Lindsay, because Byron has made a lot of the cool frames that we use on this show. So if you see a frame, it was probably made by Byron, and he and I are trying to put together some packages where we can, right now we're sort of testing them to see do they have the right opacity, the right thickness, all that kind of thing. And then we might just share some of them with you. Also want to give a big shout out and a welcome to all the folks that have joined our Facebook group. And you say, what in the world is a Facebook group? Well, our Facebook group, Streaming Idiots, is facebook.com/groups/Streaming Idiots. And it's folks that watch this show. Now, you don't have to be an idiot to join, but it helps. But a shout out to Scott Piena, Troy T.O.B., Martin Sinclair, Daniel Pinnell, Chris Begay, Zam Zoom, Mike Nelson, Bronze Titan, Shubham Ad, Kai Davis, Mark Goldby, Ray Kazora, RJ Murdoch, Mike Mancy-Juski, Martin Kennedy, Ron Lindsay, Brian Anderson, Jory Holness, Lynn Sagan, Jesse Watch, Joe Cabrice, Bruce Richardson, Faram Malik, and Jamie Buckwald. Those are the folks that were so bold as to join the Streaming Idiots Facebook group this week. And what you'll find when you get there is the kind of stuff that goes on between shows. We do these shows live on Wednesday afternoons at easternshorebroadcasting.com. And if you click Watch Live, you'll go there now. And by the way, if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook live right now and you want to get in on the chat, go over to easternshorebroadcasting.com. The same feed is there, plus it has the chat room. And there are about 5 or 6 dozen folks in the chat room right now just cutting up and having a good time. So come join the Facebook group. There are lots of things. Frequently when we've got Eastern Shore Broadcasting also is kind of has my online store. I'm a vMix reseller, so vMix is there, Magewell is there, PTZ Optics cameras are there, X keys are there, like my X keys 24 right here, and you can get all that in the store. And a lot of times we'll do specials on that stuff, so if you join the group, you can be aware of the specials as they happen. The other big news, of course, is that vMix 19, the preview, what vMix calls their betas, was released about 10 days ago. And then just this Monday, vMix 19.0.0.32 was released, and it's got some great features in it. Of course, it's got vMix Call in it. vMix Call is the thing that allows you to throw away Skype, throw away Zoom. You don't have to use an outside package to take a remote guest into vMix anymore. You can do it through vMix Call, and you can do it with up to 8 callers. We tested it yesterday in a special test. I think we got up to 7 callers because we couldn't get that 8th. No, that's right. We did get the 8th one dialed in later. And we'll show you some of the video from that in just a few minutes. The other neat things that are in vMix 19, and these are not, these are teeny little features, but for those of you that have been waiting for them, these are really going to be exciting features. For example, you can, if you accidentally close an input in vMix, there's an undo button, and you can bring it right back. I love it. Oh yeah, somebody says I have a green pen. It's invisible. Oh, that's great. I love it. Didn't even notice that. Thank you. You used to be you had up to 5 multi-views. You could take an input like me right here, and I can multi-view by putting in a background. I can put in a graphic. I can put in another graphic and another graphic, and kind of stack all that stuff on each other. But you could only go 5 layers deep. Now you can go 10 layers. And if you have 8 people on a phone call, on a vMix call, it's nice to be able to go 10 deep. They've also added an operating and streaming resolution of 2560 by 1440. I don't know that I'll ever use that, but if you need it, it's there. You also now can crop inputs. Used to be you could crop them by sort of dragging the lines around and cropping like this. Now when you get it close, you can actually crop it digitally by putting in a number. So those are really fun additions to vMix 19. vMix 19 has not been released yet. It's still in beta. We're guessing, vMix is going to be showing at the NAB show, National Association of Broadcasters show, in Las Vegas in April. And so we're hoping that maybe it'll be announced, kapow, as a completed project at that point. Doesn't mean they won't still be adding features to it after that, because they're known to do that. But it means that it would be the official release. And so when you downloaded vMix in order to buy it, that's what you would get, would be 19. But for now, it's only 18. Okay, got all the preliminaries out of the way. I am so charged up to have our special guest today, and let me bring him in. Let me find the button. Oh yeah, and we got to unmute his audio. I need to get an X keys button for that. Welcome, Seth. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you.
And you're there, and we got audio. I did it right. Woo! All right. Now Seth
Praise
is coming
the
to
Lord.
us.
It works.
Amen. Seth is coming to us from his sanctuary. So if you hear a little bit of room echo, that's what you're hearing is a for real room echo. Now, Seth, you are, as I said in the intro just a minute ago, you're sort of a modern day Renaissance man. I mean, you've got your fingers in all sorts of pots. But there was a point in your life when you didn't know live streaming existed, and then one day you did. Tell me about that day.
Yeah, so basically, I was going to church, and I knew of churches that had somehow live streamed, and I thought to myself, like, we got to do this. We got to figure out a way. And so I went online and started searching for ways to do live streaming, and this was probably like 2007, 2008, and I found a couple different companies, and I just got like a little cheapo webcam and plugged it into my computer and streamed, and then I called my pastor and I said, hey, you should check this website out, and he checks out the website, and it's me waving at the camera, and he was just blown away that we could do that, and so yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I love video and all sorts of technology. I love the way that things work together, and I figured, like, man, how can we integrate this into our church and our ministry? And we've just built it from there. And so it's been a lot of fun.
I am convinced, Seth, and we're just going to take just a little bit of a rabbit trail for a minute, but I'm convinced that the creator of the universe designed this technology and laid it out there for us to find so that we could use it for his purposes. How about that for a statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, for instance, for me or our founding pastor, because we have 2 campuses of our church, and on any typical Sunday between both churches, we might be able to reach anywhere from I don't know, 200 to 300 people between our two churches in person. But then you
Live,
get live
yeah.
streaming into it, and you get YouTube and all that kind of stuff, and you're able to reach hundreds and thousands of people more than you would just in person. So I definitely think live streaming is something that I bet the apostles and preachers of the gospel wish that they could have had. You know, I think of like John Wesley, who I think I had heard that he had ridden over like 150,000 miles on a horse all throughout England to preach the gospel, and just with a horse. And then we have all these tools and live streaming and YouTube and everything, and like, man, they put us to shame with their horse.
Well, we've got it easy, but in some ways I think the battle's probably just as hard. But if you think about 1,000 churches out there,
Sure.
or 10,000 churches out there, or 100,000 churches out there, live streaming all around the world at all times of day and night, the total impact is going to be incredible. Going to be incredible. And I think we've just really sort of scratched the surface. I think there's so much more to come as churches embrace this technology and they figure out how to incorporate the technology into sharing the gospel with folks that don't know the gospel, and to build the body that's already present. You know, for folks that have got a sick baby and they've got to stay at home, they don't miss out. For folks that are traveling for whatever reason and can't attend their home church, they don't miss out. I mean, it's just it's the plus side is just full of all sorts of great things to put on it. But at some point in your process,
I mean,
you bumped into vMix. Tell me about that.
So initially when I started live streaming, you know, we were it was very archaic, old school days of just Flash Media Encoder, and there really wasn't much. Well, actually, no, I take that back. We had procured a 4-channel Roland VS880 analog composite video mixer. But it was awful. The quality was awful. The cameras were terrible. And as we were able to think, man, how can we get better? How can we, upgrade to HD? And I just searched for a long time. I don't know if vMix was just not well in their SEO, search engine optimization, but I mean, I was Googling, and I just remember the day that I found this, and I was like, this is the greatest thing like I've ever seen. And I've been a vMix user for a long time, and it's always funny because they, as your viewers might know, both you and I are going to be down at the NAB show here in Vegas in a couple months. But I always tell people, like, whether they bring me down or whether I would never do a trade show with them, like, I am a vMix enthusiast. Like, I don't need to be, have this paid sponsorship, or anything, because vMix is just so awesome. Like, we've been using it personally here in our church, both in Moses Lake, Washington and Spokane, Washington, for, a good probably 8 years. And I mean, when we found it was just like, wow, this is incredible. And so we've been, it's funny because I'm a pastor, and, I love, studying the Word of God, but I also have this techie side that I just love figuring out how you can do things with technology and plugging things in and everything. And so I really enjoy technology too. So sometimes you might see me, instead of behind the pulpit, I'm behind the media booth tinkering around with stuff. So
a man of many talents, indeed. and one of the things that I love in dealing with you is that you're a vMix fanboy. There's no doubt about it. But you've got a humility in your spirit that means that you're willing to listen, and that's really refreshing when we talk to a lot of folks that are kind of gung ho for something. They're not always up to listening. They're more interested in talking. But you developed something for vMix a little while back, a control surface, or a virtual control surface. That is, it doesn't have real physical buttons like the X keys. Tell me about the virtual control surface. And I think I've got a picture of it here too.
Yeah, so so essentially, as I was digging through vMix, the documentation, and I figured out that there was the API that you could use to do HTTP requests to create or to trigger things in vMix. My brain started thinking, man, that'd be great to have a virtual control surface, because this was before we actually worked on the control surface that we previously had with vMix, the hardware version. But I thought, man, it would be so great to have what looks like an actual control surface. And so as I started to just do my research, I mean, I learned a couple different programming languages, because I'd never even programmed. I mean, I'd done HTML before, just doing websites for our church and everything. And so I thought, we need to have this for iOS. And so I learned Xcode, taught myself Swift, and then just went to town. I've designed all the buttons myself. My wife is a graphic designer as well, and so she helped us get a lot of the graphics going for this and just everything going. And it's been a great experience. I mean, when I log into my iTunes account to see all the different countries around the world and how many people are buying this, it's really humbling to know that this many people are actually using something that I created, which is just phenomenal. And so we're actually looking at doing, in addition to the vMix virtual control surface here soon, depending on new tech. I'm really waiting for new tech to release the full NDI library for the iOS platform, because right now they have it for everything else except for iOS fully. Now it's partially integrated but not fully, because we're going to add a third tab, as you can see in that graphic that you went to. We're going to add a third tab once this library is released by new tech, which will actually allow us to turn that tab into a touch screen video touchscreen to control vMix. And so it would essentially send a multi-view screen of probably like 8 to 10 video sources, and you basically just tap on the one that you wanted to go live with. But to achieve that right now, we need to have that library to be able to bring in the video feeds of all those different inputs, because we could do the touch part, but right now we're waiting for new tech to completely release that part of the NDI library. So we're excited about that as well.
And so you're actually going to be able to see what you're cutting to at the same time. That is huge. That is huge. Now
so it would essentially look like the multi-view right now in vMix, and so you would touch it, and then it would have like a little a highlighted color thing around it, letting you know that is what is currently live. And we'd probably look to integrate, depending on how the technology works, maybe like on the touch screen on the iOS that has the force push. You could possibly even do like a force push to do an overlay. And there's a lot of different things that we're looking at doing, but we're kind of held up at this point, waiting for new tech. So
awesome. I'm trying to flash some pictures up here of what it looks like. Tell me what we're looking at here.
So this is the audio mixer. So when you connect to the instance of vMix over your network, you just type in the IP address, and there's a video and an audio tab. So what the audio tab does is it actually shows you all the audio levels that are currently going through vMix, and allows you to mix them and manipulate them with your audio faders, as well as mute them. And just let you know what your volumes are. You can turn on and off your A and B bus, as well as your mute bus or your master bus, and then just see where your audio levels are. Because how many times are you mixing video and either your audio window isn't open, or you just can't see where the clip is, and you got to look to your audio mixer to see where that audio is coming from and to be able to mix that really quickly. But the great thing about the app too is that more than one instance of vMix, or more than one iPad, can connect to vMix. So you could have someone mixing video on an iPad, someone mixing audio on another iPad, and we'd also looked at possibly integrating maybe a title editor in there as well. But that's kind of where we're at this point. So
it just boggles the mind. It boggles the mind. That's amazing. Now, if somebody wants to get that right now, where would they go to get it?
So it's in the App Store. So if you just search vMix, I think if you just search vMix, it'll show up by itself. But if you search vMix Virtual Control Surface in the App Store, it's available only for iOS at this point. We are looking at branching out into Android and Windows, but right now we're waiting for Microsoft to fully develop their Bridge application, which is essentially something that allows us to take our Mac version and sort of port it over to Windows pretty easily, and then from Windows we'd be able to bring it to Android, but it's not fully functional yet for Swift. But once that happens, we'll be getting it on other platforms as well. But it's available now in the App Store for the meager price of $4.99, which we used to have it for $19.99. And I'm like, man, we got to get this into the hands of the people. So we got to slash prices from left to right. We got to get units out the door.
Well, I didn't know you had that used car salesman in you, but it works. It works. I guess the only way I'm going to use it is if I borrow my wife's iPad. I'll have to do that. She's an Apple person. I'm an Android person. So.
Well, one day you might be cool enough to join the Apple Club. So I'll be paying for it.
Well, probably not. Probably not. I'll just learn patience in waiting for Microsoft.
There you go.
Switching gears again, tell me about your experience in working with vMix as a tester. I mean, it was very obvious because they had you on their first vMix 19 show. I guess that was the January show where you were the featured guest coming in from a remote location. You know, the difference between Australia and Spokane, Washington. How do you pronounce Spokane?
Yeah.
Spokane? Okay.
Spokane.
Spokane.
Yep.
Okay. It's like Nevada. That's how they
Spokane.
pronounce Nevada.
There you go.
All right. So Martin and Tim asked you to participate in that. I mean, tell me, can you give me kind of peel off the coverage and tell us behind the scenes what it was like to work with them as they were developing that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great opportunity to work with them. I feel like we've developed a great relationship with all the guys over at vMix, Kim and Tim and Martin. And so Tim had called me and just said that they were looking at testing this new feature. And Tim knows that I'm always up, all hours of the night and all hours of the day, and that I'm this big vMix enthusiast. So we were able to jump right on that and just work on some testing and just it really didn't take a whole lot of testing. I mean, Martin is an unbelievable, phenomenal coder and programmer. Most people aren't going to understand like how unbelievable vMix is done and how great their programming development is. But we really only had I think one. I would even say 1.5. I wouldn't even call it a full call. It was 1.5 calls because they had everything together that they needed to, and just had to work on a couple little bugs. And so it really wasn't a whole lot of testing.
Well, that's not much of a story. Darn, I thought you were going to say, yeah, Martin, let me take a peek at the code.
I wish there was something that was broken, but I can't. Everything was just so smooth. He didn't even give me a good chance for a good story. Things were starting on fire and oh no. Well, I do have a story. When we were doing some testing, I guess something was up with the electricity or the air conditioning, and I remember Martin and Tim both working on the vMix call, and they were all very hot because it was very hot down in Australia, and their air conditioners were not working, and so I felt pretty good because it was 30 degrees up here in Washington State while they were sweating their tails off down in the down under.
Yeah, 30 was the high for the day. I understand.
Yeah.
That is too fun. Now you're going to be at NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters Conference in Las Vegas in April on the vMix team. You were on the team last year. Mm-hmm. And tell us a little bit about that, because Martin has invited me to be on the team this year. He thinks I have the stamina to hold up like you young bucks.
Joining the club, my friend.
Tell us what it was like, and I guess we want to invite everybody to come by the vMix booth too, if they get to NAB.
Yeah,
we'll get details out on that.
NAB has been fantastic. We've been going to vMix for, I think this will be our third year. That we've been going to NAB, but it's just been a fantastic time, and it's always an honor and a great time to hang out with Martin and Tim and Kim and everyone else in the booth, and it'll be fun to hang out with you because I only got to hang out with you in one day, and I guess you're like this mega celebrity or something, and so when I'm trying to talk to you, you've got this crowd of groupies around you. And so, I'm hoping one day that maybe I can talk to you for a couple minutes during NAB.
The geriatric crowd is the one that I'm being brought into for. The octogenarians.
That is not true.
Like Tommy Willis, yeah.
Yeah, and NAB has just been a fantastic time. We're able to meet a lot of great people, learning about a lot of different setups and ways that people are using vMix that I've never even thought of, or just are very just intriguing. And so I love going to NAB every year, seeing a lot of the great booths, but just meeting a lot of people and seeing what they're using it for. And so it really even hardly, feels like work to me because it's like a kid in a candy store. I mean, you get to go to NAB or in Vegas and you get to hang out with Tom Sinclair. What the heck? That's not even, that's like recess. That's we have a school here at our church too. And so they love recess, and my recess is going and hanging out with Tom Sinclair in the vMix booth.
I feel the exact same way. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. In fact, there are two great opportunities for vMix folks. One is the NAB, and I know I forget who was talking about it last night in the Facebook, the Streaming Idiots Facebook group. They were talking about trying to get a meetup of vMix folks at NAB on Tuesday night. And so if something happens on that, we'll make sure everybody knows about it. But there's also another event coming in June, a vMix meetup at a conference called StreamCon that's going to be in Atlanta. and that's like June 7th, 8th, and 9th or something like that. And we'll have more details on that. Martin's going to be there. I think Tim's going to be there. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So we kind of have a West Coast thing and kind of have an East Coast thing. So we're covering most of the country with that. Really, really good stuff. For anybody that just joined us, Seth is a vMix guy from way back. I'm a more recent vMix generation. Seth has been helping the vMix guys test version 19, which is still in beta, and that's what we're using today is version 19. You notice there were a couple of frame drops on his side, so obviously there's a bug or two left in it. But and in fact, when we connected earlier, on Tom. Yeah, that's right. Everybody does. They say it's Tom's fault. When we connected earlier, he connected to me at 1080p, 4 megabits per second, 60 frames per second. And my system, my little second generation i7 here just said, no, we can't handle that. So right now we're connected at 720p, 30 frames a second, and 2 megabits per second. So a little bit more reasonable. But for those of you that are interested in 1080, it's there. You just got to have the horsepower to be able to run it. Seth, stay with me here because I want you to see. Yesterday we had a test of vMix call, and I tried to get 8 guys on the call. Now 8 is the most you can have. There are 3 editions of vMix that have this vMix call feature in it. There's HD, which allows for 1 caller. There's 4K, which allows for 2 callers, and then there's Pro, which allows for 8 callers. And so we use the Pro to try to bring in 8 callers. And let me cut over to this video, and I'll show it to you before I start. You'll recognize some of the faces, and in a minute you'll recognize some of the voices. But we've got 3 callers across the top, 3 callers in the middle row, and on the left side of the middle row, Elvis was calling in on his phone, and so we got kind of a sketchy little frame rate on him. And then Tommy was calling in on the bottom, and of course that's me on the bottom right. And then the bottom left eventually did fill up with, I think Rafael was calling in from Poland, and we got him. But let me play just a little bit of this video so that you guys can get a feel for what it was like. It was really pretty cool. Recording shouldn't affect. If you're just joining us, this is the test. We did a test on Tuesday of the ability for vMix Call to bring in a lot of different callers. And as you can see, we're almost completely full of folks. And I appreciate you guys joining us for this. And we've had all sorts of fun with this, with the software so far. We've played with the merge effect, which allows us to do all sorts of really cool things that you would only see. Let's see. Oh no, let's do it this way. Come on, there we go. We'll do it like that. And then we'll come here and we'll do it like that. And we've got to figure out why everything switches screens like that, but we'll work that out. And so
we thought you were doing that. We thought that was some artistic piece you were adding to it. How we kind of moved around.
Well, it probably has to do with what Giles was saying earlier about rearranging the multi-views so where they were layered. Either that or just moving people around. I'm not sure. We'll have to play with it and see. And it could be a bug. I mean, we're using things in a beta, so obviously it's not a finished product yet. And you can see those guys were having PC right here. We are running way too much fun. 34%. We went on. I think the call probably was an hour and a half, and nobody really wanted to get off. But Ken had to go back to work. Ken works in a candy factory, and one of the products he makes is a lollipop called a Dum Dum, which I thought was perfect for streaming idiots. So. But that was fun. So vMix called up to 8 callers, and you saw the quality of the video. Different people were coming in with different resolutions. Probably 4 or 5 people were coming in the same way you are right now at 720p, 2 megabits per second. A couple were coming in at 360 because that's all the bandwidth they had. And then I was sending back in the very end, we experimented with it, and I sent back consistently 720p at 1.2 megabits per second. But we actually got all the way up to 2 megabits per second on the return feed to 7 guests. And the response, I mean, the actual, let's see if I can pull up some statistics here. Let's see if we can make this stop. I'm gonna fade into this one. See if we can't stop it immediately. Yeah, right there. You can see the statistics. I was sending 5.5 megs and receiving between 9 and 10 megs, and that was with 7 callers and a CPU of 37% on an old i7 second generation. Martin had sent me an email. And said, you better have a beefy PC if you're going to do 8 callers. But turns out we didn't need it. Well, Seth, I want to thank you for taking time with us today and coming on the show. And I can't wait to hanging out with you guys in April.
Yeah, absolutely.
At NAB. Any closing thoughts?
No, just thanks for having me on the show. It's an honor, and I can't wait to hang with you guys at the vMix booth. Yeah, so that's all that I got, and hope everyone can take a look at the vMix app if you have an iPad. And then also, if you are interested or have anything to do with scoreboards or anything, we also have, if you want to check out in the vMix forum, we developed the Daktronics. We have a little thing I put on there that we're working on. We've synchronized Daktronics scoreboard to a custom title that we did, and maybe we'll have to come on the show maybe again sometime and talk about that.
Let's get you on in late summer, right before football season. How about that?
Let's do it.
All right, and bring it to NAB. I want to see it.
Hey, yeah, let's do it. We just got to have someone down there that's got one of those Daktronic boards. So I think if the gym that we use, if we took it there, I think they would probably be a little upset if it was gone.
Okay. All right. Well, Seth, thanks for coming on. If you've got a minute or two to hang out with us in post-show. Otherwise, I understand if you can't.
I probably got 2 minutes. I actually have some kids. We're about ready to do our weekly chapel service for our Christian school. We have a Christian school of about 72, 73 people. And so we're about to have chapel, and our kids are about waiting on me. But yeah,
Gotcha.
I got probably about 2 minutes. I had someone in the chat room I saw was asking me the earpiece that I used. But this is actually what I use for my in-ears at church as well as this. But this is just a company called Allclair. That it's a great little in-ear piece if you guys want to have like a cool little molded earpiece, and it's got a little cable that comes down. It's really discreet, so if you want to do calls, you want to look like the Secret Service and be really cool, you just put your hand up there, and then you're cool.
Great. Okay. All right. Well,
but yeah, that company is Allclair.
All right. Hold on as long as you can. Let's get this call going. Whoops. And that's not what we were doing. We were doing this one right here. So, you're a one-man show. You just never know what's going to happen next. Folks, thanks for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching us on Facebook, please join the Streaming Idiots group. I think you'll have a lot of fun with that. And if I can help you in any way, shoot me an email, tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com. Until next week, another great show. We'll see you then. Take care. Have fun. Be good.